Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into something that's all around us, but maybe we don't always examine it closely enough. Entertain and conquer, the hidden politics of distraction.
That's right. And for this exploration, we've pulled together some really fascinating material. We're going from ancient Rome all the way to modern China.
Yeah, looking at how societies, across these vast differences in time and culture, have used things like public spectacles and sports, well,
Fun.
in ways that go way beyond just having fun.
Exactly. The goal here is to sort of understand how these forms of entertainment can be used, maybe strategically, to shape what people think about.
Or maybe even more importantly, what they don't think about, right?
Right. It's about those subtle ways, sometimes not so subtle, that what we watch, what we cheer for, can influence how we see the world and our place in it.
And it really makes you ask yourself, doesn't it? Have you ever stopped to think why certain kinds of entertainment just grab us completely?
Or why they get so much support, financially or culturally, why they become such a huge part of things.
Yeah.
Let's unpack this a bit.
Okay, sounds good. Let's start way back. Ancient Rome. That classic phrase, bread and circuses.
Yeah, and our source material, it really highlights that this wasn't just some saying. Bread and circuses it was practically a strategy, a tool for social control.
More than just feeding people and putting on a show.
Oh, definitely. It seems to have been a pretty calculated political move.
Okay, so when we talk about these huge events, the gladiators in the Colosseum, those crazy chariot races and the Circus Maximus, even the theater shows, what were they really trying to achieve?
Well, I mean, on one level, it's pretty obvious, right? Distraction, a big grand escape from the difficulties or maybe just the boredom of daily life in Rome.
Right, escapism for the masses, everyone gets involved. But you're saying there was more to it.
Absolutely. These spectacles were also incredibly powerful ways to reinforce the social hierarchy, just
Yeah.
the sheer scale of something like the Colosseum Games.
Yeah.
It was a constant visible reminder of the Roman state's immense power, its resources.
Like a big display. Look what we, the people in charge, can do, that kind of thing.
Precisely. And think about who paid for these things.
Yeah.
Often the elites, right? Sponsoring games was a very public way to gain favor, boost your political standing,
Yeah.
show off your wealth, your generosity.
And the actual entertainment, the content
Yeah.
that sent messages too, didn't it? Like the gladiator fights, they were incredibly violent. What's the message there?
Well, it certainly projects Roman strength, dominance, this idea of control even over life and death itself.
Mm.
And the chariot races, with the wealthy owners and the teams, that also reinforced those social divides. Even theater often pushed traditional values, the accepted social order.
It's really interesting how these events also kind of conveniently drew attention away from maybe less pleasant things like political corruption or economic problems.
That's a key point that comes up. The free entertainment, the circuses, was deliberately paired with distributing free grain, the bread, the annona.
Ah, the bread part.
Right. Keep people fed, keep them entertained, and crucially, maybe stop widespread unhappiness, the kind that could actually threaten the system.
So the idea was basically if people have full bellies and something exciting to watch, they're less likely to worry about other stuff. It's pragmatic, maybe a bit cynical.
You could say that, and
Yeah.
this whole reinforcing the hierarchy thing, it was literally built into the stadiums. The seating arrangements were incredibly strict.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, you had the best seats, the Emma Cavea for the emperor, senators, the absolute top tier. Senators even had their names carved into seats sometimes.
Wow.
Then came the knights, the equiers, then ordinary citizens.
Yeah.
And way, way up at the top, in the wooden bleachers, the manianum secundum in lignes, that's where you'd find the lowest classes, women, slaves.
That is so blatant, a constant visual reminder of exactly where you stood in society.
Exactly. It wasn't accidental. It was design,
Yeah.
part of the control.
Yeah.
But here's the interesting flip side. Even with these clear divisions, the events also created a kind of shared identity.
How could they do that with everyone separated like that?
The being a common experience. Everyone, no matter where they sat, was watching the same spectacle, feeling similar emotions, the excitement, the tension. It forged this temporary sense of unity, a collective Romanness, maybe.
So even if you're up in the nosebleeds, you're still part of this big Roman cultural thing.
Precisely. And that bread aspect, the food distribution, that was vital for morale.
Yeah.
A concrete benefit that helped keep major unrest down. Hungry people get restless.
Okay, so Rome really had this down to an art form, it seems. Now let's jump forward. Different time, different continent, modern China. What does the study on sports and public opinion tell us? Are there parallels?
It's really quite striking, actually, how similar principles seem to be at play in such a different context. The Chinese government invests enormous amounts in sports,
Right.
and they are quite explicit about viewing national success in sports as, well, as an important propaganda tool. That's the term used.
Propaganda. That word carries a lot of weight. What does it mean here?
Well, listen to this quote from President Xi Jinping back in 2017. He said something like, "Sports carry our dream for strength, prosperity, and national rejuvenation. When our sports are strong, our nation is strong."
Okay, that's pretty direct. So it's not just about winning medals. It's tied right into national strength, national image.
Exactly.
Mm.
You see, China was initially a bit hesitant about things like the Olympics, saw them as maybe elitist Western things, but then there was a strategic shift. They decided to bid for and host major events, like the 2008 Beijing Olympics.
Which was a huge international statement, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Widely seen as symbolizing China's economic rise, its growing global status.
And the government's focus on sports didn't stop there, I assume.
No way. Investment ramped up across the board, elite athlete training, building facilities, promoting the sports industry itself. Their official plans, like the 5-year plans for sports, they talk about economic growth, sure, but also about building a strong sports culture to reinforce national unity.
It really sounds like a very conscious effort to link that feeling of national pride directly to winning in sports.
Definitely. And they actively cultivate it. The state broadcaster, CCTV, has a big annual Sports Personality of the Year show. It elevates athletes. Achievements are constantly framed as winning glory for the motherland, strengthening the nation.
The study we looked at also mentioned something about using sports to stir up nationalism in other ways, too, even involving things like anti-Japanese sentiment.
Yes. The research pointed to examples like during the 2007 Women's World Cup and other events where those nationalistic feelings, sometimes with that specific anti-Japanese edge, seem to be deliberately amplified. When sports and national identity get tangled up like that, it can bring out some really strong emotions.
And the study itself did an experiment, right? What did they actually find about how broadcasting sports wins affects what people think?
Yeah, that was the core of it. They ran this survey experiment in cities like Xi'an and Guangzhou. And the key takeaway was that showing news reports focusing on Chinese athletes winning internationally, well, it had a noticeable positive effect
Positive effect on what exactly?
on people's general satisfaction with things and also on their stated willingness to comply with local government directives.
Wow, that's quite a link. So, watching an athlete win a gold medal might actually make someone feel better about their local government. How does that work?
It's fascinating, isn't it? The researchers think it's about this boost in national pride and just general happiness from the win. That positive feeling then sort of spills over, making people more inclined to support the status quo, which includes the authorities.
So, it's not really about changing minds on specific policies, but more about creating a kind of positive background feeling.
Exactly. The study was careful to note that. The effect was mainly on those broad measures, general satisfaction, willingness to comply. It didn't seem to shift opinions much on specific, potentially controversial issues like, say, disputes over land development or relocation.
That's an important distinction. So, good vibes from sports wins might not be enough to smooth over concrete grievances.
Seems that way. And it's also worth remembering, the study points out this isn't unique to China or non-democratic systems. Other research, even in democracies, has shown that big sports victories can influence how people rate their political leaders.
Which does make you think about things like massive government spending on new stadiums in Western countries, sometimes when the economic benefit is debatable. Is that maybe a modern version of the circus?
It definitely raises the question. The mechanisms might be different, no direct grain distribution usually, but tapping into that public goodwill generated by sports, it could certainly be part of the calculation.
Okay, so we've looked at Rome, we've looked at modern China. Let's try to connect these threads. What's the basic link here between these examples that are so far apart in time and place?
Well, if you boil it down, both Rome's bread and circuses and China's strategic use of sports seem to serve a pretty similar basic function, helping to maintain social order.
How? By distraction and...
By distraction, yes, but also by fostering positive feelings, positive sentiment towards the ruling powers, whether it's the emperor or the party.
Right. Keep people focused on the excitement, the national pride, maybe not so much on other problems, and associate those good feelings with the government, even indirectly.
Precisely. And, that Roman source we mentioned hinted at this too. The parallels today might go beyond sports. Think about the endless stream of reality TV or those huge blockbuster movies. Could they also, maybe unintentionally, serve to divert attention?
It's a slightly uncomfortable thought, isn't it? We think of entertainment as just entertainment, leisure, but it seems it can have these political undercurrents
Mhm.
and maybe reinforce the status quo by keeping us all happily absorbed.
And the scale is just immense. That comparison between the Colosseum holding maybe 50,000 people
Yeah.
and something like the Super Bowl reaching hundreds of millions globally, the reach of mass entertainment today is just staggering.
Which really brings us to a key question for you listening right now. When you think about these examples, ancient and modern, how might the entertainment you consume every day be subtly shaping things? Your views, your priorities, maybe in ways you haven't even considered. This is where it gets really interesting.
It really pushes you to think a bit more critically, doesn't it, about the role entertainment plays and whether there are unseen influences shaping how we see things through these things we often just see as fun diversions.
So just to wrap up our deep dive today, we've really explored how public spectacles, sports, entertainment, how they've been used strategically as tools for social and political influence for centuries, from Rome right up to today.
And look, entertainment is great. It has value. It brings joy. But
Mm.
understanding these potential political dimensions, it just helps us be a bit more aware, maybe more discerning about the messages and the distractions all around us.
It's about realizing that the things that grab our attention, the things that entertain us, might also be quietly shaping our understanding of the world.
Yeah, which leaves you with a final thought to mull over. Now that we've gone through all this, think about that constant hum of media and entertainment in our own lives. What are the modern bread and circuses? What might be shaping our perceptions or priorities, maybe without us even noticing? So what does this all mean for you?